common things now that everybody's wanting to do is home control. They want to be notified of things happening at their house. They want to be able to have eyes on their property, and they want to be able to have it all done simply through one platform, one app. And so that's what we do, make it as simple for them as possible.
Well, excited for the podcast today. Welcome, Rex.
Dude, thanks, man. I'm excited too.
So Rex is managing partner and co-owner of Hybryd Systems, one of our trade partners. You do a lot with us. Anyone that's followed us, maybe on a personal note, he's one of our gym buddies. So
I am, dude. We were just hitting the gym this morning.
Rex keeps us. He's definitely got us on a weightlifting plan. So got to thank him for that.
Dude, well, you're the one that I'm trying to keep up with. So it is what it is.
So maybe we start there. I think a lot of people, we speak about like work-life balance. It really doesn't exist yet. For anyone that knows you, you have 6 kids, right? You're right in the thick of it between school and life and running a small business. And, what have you found to be successful for you to like manage your time?
Dude, I think it's just having a schedule and trying to stay consistent with it. I mean, for me, I try to prioritize the things that are most important, things that like help me maybe mentally, knock those out beginning of the day, sets kind of a tone for the rest of the day. And that's why I think prioritizing the gym first and then allowing me to focus the rest of the day on work and family has been like the best way I've tried to balance it. I mean, it's tough, but that's probably the best way that I figured it out.
It's funny because just a few episodes ago, I had Kate McDonald on, and when I was interviewing her about, maybe it's that dad guilt, maybe it's business guilt. You're like, hey, I'm at the gym. I could be, doing this or this. And she's like, it's actually selfish of you not to be at the gym. Like it's selfish of you not to have some personal health, like working on yourself, because otherwise you can't be your best self, whether you're a parent, whether you're a business owner. And unfortunately for us, we work in a very stressful environment, in construction.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I mean, taking time for yourself, you have to do it. You have to do it. To be able to show up as your best self for everyone else, you have to prioritize yourself in some way.
You started your company. Maybe give us a quick background, Rex, when you started Hybryd. I believe you and Travis, right? And,
yep.
Some of those early growing pains, you don't know what you don't know. So what did those first days look like, as you start your own company?
Dude, it was pretty rough way back at the beginning. I mean, going way back. So my entire life when it comes to working has been in low voltage. So it was my first job I ever had in high school. Started working for a company running cable, during a summer. I think it was my junior year, 2006 is when I started. And then continued to run cable for them, continue to work for them, built myself up in the company, ended up becoming, install technician, that kind of thing. And then rolled that into starting my own company with Travis. And I think we learned a lot of things, working for other low voltage companies. And when you start, it's funny because so many different hats get put on that you're not expecting to wear. and balancing all of that was tough, but I was so fortunate to have Travis as my business partner. He's kind of a workhorse and somebody that I can bounce ideas off of, and he bounces them off me, and we communicate well together, and we're able to figure out most of those hiccups right at the beginning. But
so maybe before we dive into maybe some of the specifics you mentioned of that entrepreneurship, I always find the partnerships interesting because there are a lot of businesses that have struggled to have a very healthy relationship with their partner, their business partner, that is, right?
Right.
Now, understand, as you mentioned, the benefit is you have a sounding board. You're not fighting this entrepreneurship journey alone. It can be pretty lonely owning a company. All the stress falls on you. So the advantage is, of course, you have someone that you can kind of collaborate with. The difficulty would be, if you don't have the same vision, if you overlap in what your interests are, direction of the company. How have you guys found a balance just to make that relationship work and thrive?
Dude, I think that the main thing that we've done is building just trust together. I think he trusts me and I trust him. And when we run into a conflict on something we disagree with, we're both pretty good at listening to the other side and hearing them out. And if we can't meet in the middle, supporting the other person in like their plan and moving forward with it. And that's worked pretty well for us. And when that plan doesn't work out right, just taking accountability for, hey, yeah, like thanks for pointing out the things maybe we should have done, and then forgiving and revamping and starting over. I think it's just kind of being able to trust and then let go if it didn't work out the way it was supposed, or you had mentioned it working out.
How do you take accountability without hurt feelings?
I think there's always some hurt feelings, but if you try to if you try to put like the hurt feelings more on yourself, like I think that's kind of how I do it is if I'm the one, let's say I'm the one that messed up, I'll just, own that and apologize. And I think just by being more humble, it allows the other person to kind of meet you where you're at, and vice versa. Like I try to meet him where he's at if it goes south from him maybe not having the right call on something.
Do you guys, as far as like roles and responsibilities? I mean, is that clearly defined? Is that a work in progress? I mean, is it just working as is right now?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of some roles are clearly defined. I'm more of like a technology mindset. I understand more the technical side of everything. And so when it comes to like putting new systems together, building up new processes for, I don't know, how a home's supposed to come together with the latest tech. That's usually my field. He's more analytical. He's good with like making all the paperwork make sense. He does a lot of back end stuff. He's awesome with clients, good at walking jobs and creating all the proposals and bids and having those fine tuned so that we're being fair with the customer, but being fair to ourselves. So we have a lot of defined roles, but then also we have to mesh in certain areas where we kind of overlap, which has been good.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the reality is you're a small business. I mean, I look at my business, and as much as I speak about, systems operation, having things documented, like it's evolving. I mean, the company's changing in size, up or down. Projects change. You kind of, the market will dictate that. There's some days where it's very heavy workload, and there's some times in the process where it's slow. Right, the economy kind of goes up and down throughout construction, and there's no. What I find most challenging about it is that it's not like we're on a factory line that for you, Rex, it's like, okay, this job starts, then we go into this one, and then we go into this one. You may have the GC delayed on 3 or 4 of them, and all of a sudden they're all hitting at once. And then you have this gap where none of them are going. What does that look like for you guys just to balance, manpower and your staff? Because I would imagine there's times that flow is either really heavy or you're trying to cover payroll to not lay someone off as you're like fielding those gaps.
Dude, that is exactly what happens all the time. So it's a weird like roller coaster with it because we have times where we're slammed and you know this, we get out of town some and do some work out of town too, which adds to our busy schedule. So when we're doing projects across the country, things ramp up here at home. But when those projects out of state are kind of slowing down or not ready for the next phase, then we're like scrambling to keep all of our guys busy. And there's always like, it feels like there's always like something small that's coming up, and we'll just accept pretty much all of the little things that come up. Like, okay, hey, we have a small security install, or we have somebody needs this service done, and we're just sending our guys to all these different jobs that are usually things that, you know, they wouldn't be doing, at least not multiple guys at the same job. It's a one man job, and we're just trying to fill their time because we don't want to let them go. And they're most of our guys are pretty understanding. They all want their hours for sure, and so that's kind of our main goal. Is like, let's get you guys your 40 minimum, and then on the weeks that we're busy, like be expecting to be overworked. And and that happens because sometimes we're like, okay, we can't get, like, is it worth hiring another guy for a few months? Probably not. So most of our guys are hard workers, and they're willing to take on some extra work.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I look back to my years as a like trade partner. I think one of the advantages maybe as a GC now, it's like I'd worked in the trades. I grew up as an electrician. And then in college, when I was studying construction management, I went back to San Diego every summer working for a low voltage and fire alarm company. Now, I didn't do like the automation and security like you do, Rex, but I mean, we're doing fiber optics, we're doing fire alarm, um, and on the military bases and at the schools. And point being is that I remember those times as in the trades of I'd have weeks that were really busy. That I mean, when I say really busy, I mean like the schools close down for the summer and they're trying to get all this stuff done in a couple of months before school starts again. And so you're working 60, 70 hours a week, 75. There were a couple of weeks I had, which is
Yeah.
brutal. The paychecks were awesome. you know, like,
Yeah.
I mean, even though you get hammered in overtime tax, but because I was only working for 4 months in between school, I'd get that back, tax time. But point being is, the paychecks are great, but like mentally and physically it was exhausting. And, um, I would say that, there's just days where you're just tired and it's like, I got to put my bags on and I got to stay motivated. And, maybe I'm dealing with personal stress or personal conflict in my life. And, it changes that. And I feel like that's given me sensitivity to our trades, in the middle of the summer out here working with bags on, how tough it is in Arizona. Um, for you, I know there's occasions you have your bags on, you're traveling, you're doing programming. What does that look like? Maybe just from an empathy, company culture side of understanding your team and, when they have those busy weeks and they're working a ton of hours.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that we try to do, I mean, being in it, a lot of times we tell our guys, like, hey, there's nothing that you're going to do that I'm not willing to do. And so when we're working with them, we're working right alongside them. They see our work ethic, that we're busting it, giving it everything we have. Um, and at the same time, I understand that they're not a business owner in the company. And so the same value of putting in all of that extra time, all of that extra work for maybe a bigger paycheck, but it's not as valuable to them as it is to me to watch like my
Mm.
company grow. So we try to do things with them, try to make them feel like they're a part of the family, like they're part of a bigger picture. From little things like showing up with Gatorades for them on a hot day, or showing up with breakfast for them, or taking them to lunch. Just like little things like that, I think go a long way with our guys to just make them feel like they're part of a company culture that's looking out for them and recognizing that they're looking out for us. So it's been good. And then even like on a bigger scale, like we'll try to do extra things for them as far as I know, like sometimes we travel out of state. And when we're out of state, we'll give them an option of like, hey, do you want to just stay the weekend with and have your person fly out here and stay with you in DC and spend the weekend here?
That's
Like
cool.
little perks like that. But I don't know. Our guys, I think it's just having that company culture mindset of like, hey, we're kind of all in this together. We're all working. I mean, we're a small company, so we're all working together, all kind of have the same goals of watching us be successful and seeing the customer at the end feel like, this company did a good job and we all have some type of like friendship at the end of it.
So fascinating. I mean, just the dynamics. I mean, you think about maybe when before you started your company, right? I look back and I'm like, okay, you may know wiring, you may know programming, right? You know how to, run the, what it takes to be successful in the field. But the minute you become an entrepreneur, you almost have to put that hat aside because now you're dealing with other personalities and hiring and training and payroll and business development and working with us challenging GCs and making sure you don't have turnover and retention. And so it's all these things. You're like running a business is a little unique as to I'm sure what you imagine, as you're like, okay, I think I can do this myself.
Dude, it's totally unique. I mean, I went from doing like side work. I mean, that's really how this thing started is I started doing a bunch of side work on the side, picking up jobs here and there. And until that got too busy where I ended up jumping ship and starting my own thing. And I remember when we first began, like having a conversation with my business partner, like that we have so many hats on. And this was just when it was him and I. And we were doing all the jobs, we were doing all the paperwork, we were maintaining the customer base. And I remember being so stressed out that like I was losing focus on the automation side because I'm having to deal with all these other things. And we had a conversation where it turns out, even though we're like in the home automation security business, like our business, like for him and I, it's more than that. It's more of like a people business. Like we're in
Mhm.
this for the people we're working for. Like relationships with our customers are more important than the final dollar coming in. And I think shifting that mindset from, okay, like how do I like or keeping, and I guess it's kind of it's a weird way to separate it, but keeping the mindset of, okay, we got to be up to date on technology and keeping everything smooth for our customers, but also give them an experience where it's customized exactly for them. um, it's been cool. It's been hard, but it's been rewarding. And I think we figured out a pretty good balance. And bringing guys on has actually helped with that. Being able to kind of remove myself from the field as often as I had to be in there and be more in the office and be able to talk to my customers.
What and this is, I think, unique to you. I mean, not every company is this way as a trade partner, but you have two customers. You have the general contractor who is your customer that you're selling to and trying to be on their bid list and maybe their preferred vendor. And then you have the actual user, the client who's going to be in there with the home. How do you balance that relationship between the two parties? Because not every most of my trade partners don't ever deal with the client ever. You know,
Yeah.
they're partying with the GCs, and you're the one of those that are touching base from beginning of construction to way past when the homeowner moves in.
Yeah. Yeah. We actually kind of love it. It's good because I think we separated into two different sides where we want to be, I mean, it bleeds into both because we want to be somebody that isn't a problem for anybody. When it comes to technology, when you think about the homeowners, it's we're the last people in there before they move in, typically on a new build, new construction. We're the last people in there talking with the homeowners, getting them set up on their apps, logging them into all their different accounts. And if they have a bad experience at that point, it makes everybody look bad.
Right.
It doesn't, I mean, it doesn't matter if they had an awesome experience with their builder or GC. If we come in at the end and their system that they spent all this money on doesn't work right for them, they're disappointed in it. And so I think as simple as we can keep everything and as customized to the specific customer, the better it is for us and everybody involved. And so on the customer side, we try to just be as detailed as possible with them, have as much communication with them as possible, talk to them about what's a realistic expectation for the system that they're going to be getting, and 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 be available for them. I mean, it's like you said, it's a relationship that's going to continue for hopefully forever, really. Like we're in it to not just be in there, wash our hands, hey, your warranty's done, good luck with your system now. No, we want to be there servicing you forever. We want to be there the next time you want to get an update. If you have another home you want to build, whatever, we want to be somebody that you trust for long term. And then on the builder side of it, you guys, at least what we've experienced with our GCs and builders, is the less issues, less problems on the job site as possible. Show up when you say you're going to show up, do the job you said you're going to do. And we typically don't have problems with our builders when we're just doing the things that we promised we would do.
Yeah, it's interesting because you made a point that maybe overlooked in some ways is that if the GC does a phenomenal job and then the client moves in and their TVs don't work for the Super Bowl or their security's not working or their programming, that finger gets pointed at the GC, right, wrong, and different. And you're in that home, like you're servicing the client. And so if you have someone who's not great, it could put a blemish on the GC. But on the flip side, too, I think what's unique about that position for you, Rex, is throughout my career, I've seen it very often where we have a new client come in that's meeting with us and they're excited to work with the architect and designer and AFT. But the one trade partner they request, they say, hey, for low voltage automation, we want this company. We've worked with them in the past on our other projects. They've been great. I know you travel across the country because you built a relationship with your clients who then are building, in DC or Michigan or Hawaii or wherever. And so, um, that's where what's interesting for you is that you're kind of getting a 2-for-1, right? I mean, if you have a good relationship with the GCs, they're going to continue to have you on their book of business. And then you also have the clients that, you build that relationship over time.
Oh, 100%. And that's why we prioritize just the people aspect, people with the builder and people with the actual end user, the homeowner. And honestly, our relationship with most everybody it turns into friendship, which has been good. And I think that's kind of unique to being in a small business. You're able to keep it more small, more intimate between you and your customers, and you and I would consider my builders my customers too, like you said. So
Mm-hmm.
like I would be like the closer that I can be to the people that I care about working for, the better. And I think they feel that, and they want the same. They want that same friendly relationship.
What when you're meeting with a client and a GC from day one, what are all the scopes of work that you perform?
So everything low voltage, all things audio, video, security, surveillance. Um, Home automation's changed a lot over the years since I started it back in 2006, but basically common things now that everybody's wanting to do is home control. They want to be notified of things happening at their house. They want to be able to have eyes on their property, and they want to be able to have it all done simply through one platform, one app. And so that's what we do. Make it as simple for them as possible.
Well, how difficult is that now, maybe from a continuing education thing? Because you have the garage door app, you have the swimming pool app, right? You have, as you mentioned, security and mechanical from the HVAC, air conditioning. All these elements that are changing as AI and technology comes in. How do you keep well versed to be at the forefront?
A lot of our partners that we work with, they do a pretty good job of continuing education. They'll release videos of their new products. They'll release spec sheets of things that are coming out. They have different shows that we can go to. We'll travel to shows like CEDIA, which is basically showing us the latest technology that's available for home automation. They have security conferences where you can go and see the latest tech for AI and surveillance, facial recognition, finding out infrared, all the different things for the different areas. And it's just a matter of like wanting the education and getting it. And a lot of times we'll even have homeowners say, "Hey, I saw this new feature with AI. Do your cameras do this? Can you recognize the license plate? Can you track it? Can you notify me when this face walks into my yard?" And we're like, and we just, yeah, we can. Yeah, we'll figure it out. If we don't know how to do it, I mean, something we learned how to do back when we first started, going back to your original question, really, when we first started, if there was anything that we didn't know how to do, we figured it out and just took care of it. And it was a yes game because we were just fighting for business. And and so as soon as something would become on our radar of, "Hey, do you guys," I mean, we started doing gate operators, which is something
Mm,
we had never done before. But we had
right.
a customer that where we were doing surveillance systems, and it came up, "Hey, we had a falling out with our gate company. We don't know, who's gonna do the control over this gate." And so we just figured it out. We're like, "Yeah, we'll do that," and made it happen. And so like we do that in all areas. Now it's a little easier with already having kind of a broad base of everything we do. But yeah, it's a work in progress on keeping up to date with everything, but also I kind of love it. It's kind of something I'm passionate about.
What misconceptions do homeowners have? As you're meeting with them, if they're not novice or they're not experienced in the low voltage automation, program that you are trying to. I don't want to say trying to sell them, but at least present to them so they
Yeah.
can make those decisions.
Yeah, I think a lot of times what happened, most homeowners, they're pretty open to wanting to have automation in their house because it's been kind of cool because thanks to things like Amazon or Apple Home, a lot of people have already had an idea of different ideas that they could have for as far as automating their house, turning on light switches, talking to Alexa to have her control your house. So they all have these ideas of things that they want to do. I think there's two things. One is helping them to understand what's actually capable of being done. And then two, the platform that you're going to need to do that. I think a lot of people don't understand that for doing some of the more sophisticated things that they want to do in their homes, it takes a special, more robust platform than just something you would buy from Amazon. And so helping them to understand the importance and the value of purchasing something that will last, and something that's easily usable for the long term is something that we try to do.
So if you're looking at this maybe from a customer perspective, and budget's a non-issue, you don't worry about costs, like what are some of the must-haves that you would install in your personal home or for a client?
I mean, must-haves for me and for a lot of clients actually is lighting systems. They want to be able to hit a button and turn off their lights. They want to be able to not have to walk around a dark house at the end of the night and turn them off. So for me, that's important. And then also the audio. I would say discrete audio in all the different rooms in your house, whether it's your backyard, your patio, your family room, your master bathroom, whatever. Just being able to simply turn on your music and control that from your phone or from a touch panel or from your voice. I mean, really now from your voice too, to be able to activate all that kind of stuff. I like the audio video side of things, but also the lighting side. But then what's cool is I wouldn't want just any one of those things by itself. And so you got to have them all integrated together. And I think we use a couple different platforms for that. We use Control4 and we use Crestron. And those two help it work seamlessly with the homeowner and the things they want to do. And I mean, I wouldn't install a home automation system in a home if it wasn't on one of those platforms. Yeah.
So what, as you think about that, the one question I wanted to ask you about video distribution, because I think a lot of our clients get confused on what that entails, where instead of, at the location of the TV, having maybe Apple TV or satellite box, it's all wired back to the main brain. So you may have an automation closet where you have a few Apple TVs or a few devices. That way the TV is clean by itself. Benefits of video distribution, how that works, why a client should entertain that, even though there may be a cost to that.
Yeah. So video distribution is something pretty cool. And they started rolling that out quite a few years ago before it was even HDMI. And now that we have HDMI, it's 4K video now. Being able to have all your sources not stacked behind the TV or below the TV in an entertainment center, but having them be removed back in a rack of equipment that's right there next to your entire network, all locally, cleanly connected. It's huge for the customer, because being able to access those video feeds, I guess I should probably explain what a video distribution is. I think a lot of people don't really even understand it. So instead of having the Apple TV or the satellite box or the game console in the room where you're viewing it, like in the family room, you can have it removed into a central rack and have that rack available to be viewed at any location in the house. So you could access the same PlayStation in multiple rooms if you wanted to. You could be playing it in the game room, you could be playing it in the family room, you could be playing it in your master bedroom, and you could do it all at the same time or separately. And it's the technology that allows you to do that. And I think for a lot of people, just having the clutter out of the room removed, but then also having the capability of hopping on to whatever source, continuing your movie that you were watching in the family room, continue it in your bedroom later that night because, you just wanted to switch locations, is all capable because of video distribution.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the benefits. I know many of our clients do that. There is a cost to that, but to your point, if you have some kids that want to have a Nintendo DS or PlayStation, and then you may have settings on, you may be in a movie midstream, you may have settings on your TV that, again, if you're in the great room or pool house or bedroom, they can simultaneously relocate to those areas without having to move the actual box itself.
Yeah, 100%. In your homes, when you're meeting with your clients, Brad, are you is do they usually voice things about home automation and audio video things that they're looking for, or do they lean more on you guys or the audio video technician like myself to give them that information?
Yeah, it's a great question because when we're meeting with them in pre-construction, this is one of the hardest things for us to budget for. I mean, we've done everything from very conservative entry level to like full lighting, video distribution, exterior speakers. I mean, you name it, everything in between. And so we try to get a good feel of the clients of what their expectation is. And some clients are funny. They're like, hey, we're simple. We don't want it really confusing. We don't want all this technology. I just want to come in and hit my little rocker switch and turn light on. But as they get operating and they see the complexity of their house and how big it is, and or maybe, to your point, where they want to come home and just have certain, they show up maybe as they're traveling into town or they're coming home from the grocery store or from a friend's house and it's at nighttime, that they can turn on those walkways, those, down the hallways to their bedroom, have lights on. There's a convenience there. And so what I would say is that we try to create like a budget allowance for them. You
Mhm.
know, it's one being the way we do our estimates, it's probably one of the only or one of the very few allowance items we have in our budget because most everything is bid out and we have plans and specs, but you're never going to have plans and specs from the architect and designer for low voltage. That's something where that company has to meet direct with the client. But we will have conversations with them when they ask, what is the budget? What does it entail? And we give them project history. Hey, this will typically get you a good pre-wire, speakers in so many locations. It'll have video distribution. It'll have a certain amount of lighting control. It'll be tied into Crestron, maybe Control 4. But at least it gives them the basics where they have a good understanding of what they get. And then it's up to them meeting with you, Rex, or one of our vendors, and letting them work their magic, sell them, show them the showroom, show them other projects, go through all the different options so that they can make sure they're making the right decision.
Yeah. And honestly, it's super helpful. I mean, I've known working with you at AFT, I feel like by the time we get to that sit down with your customer, they already have kind of a base idea of what they're expecting because of the pre-construction budget that you came up with. And that's super helpful for us. And then, yeah, when it comes to like building the system, it's so customizable. There's really, like you said, there's no real way to do a full bid and have it all laid out before like I sit down with them. Like they always have some type of idea of things they want to do, um, but the possibility of making that happen and what it looks like financially to make that happen, they really don't know until we kind of sit down and go through the things that are important to them.
Going back to the speaker thing, I think it's interesting just because the convenience of it. I know I have kids that have gotten older. Music's a big part of what they do, and so being able to have something programmed where they can come in, and maybe they're outside or maybe they're in their bedroom, that they connect their phone. How difficult is it for you? It's one thing to have the client come in and have their wish lists and come in and program. What does that look like from a training side to train your customer so they're not calling you saying, hey, Rex, my system doesn't work. I'm having this issue. And you're troubleshooting them where it does operate. It just maybe operator error, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, that's a good question because a lot of times that's what it is. And so but the thing is we're good with that. I tell my clients, I'm like, please like annoy me. Like cuz we walk them through everything at the beginning, obviously, like before it all happens. And then as we're doing the building process, they forget about certain things that they wanted or certain things that are already included. And a lot of times they're like, oh, cool. I'm glad that we already are having speakers out in the yard. Like, that's awesome. Or I'm glad that we are doing the video distribution. What does that mean again? Because it's all been explained and talked about, but forgotten. And so
Mm-hmm.
then we get to the end, and typically we present like the final product. All the apps are on their phones, and we're able to go through them and explain to them what the different capabilities of them are. But it's a lot to be dumped on to the customer all at once. And so we go through it. We'll give them a little cut sheet of just some tips on basic things if they don't, that are kind of included on almost all projects. And then for most things, it's just an open line of communication for a while where, hey, when you're turning on your TV and the screen doesn't come on and you thought it was supposed to, like let's chat about that. Or you're trying to turn on a certain station on your Spotify and you can't find that playlist, like let me explain to you where you're going to find it. And it's just more repetitive, getting them used to it. And what's cool about the way technology is now is most of it's actually pretty simple. So it's a small learning curve. I think it feels big to them when they first get presented with this whole house of automation, and then it ends up being pretty simple for them by the end.
It's interesting as you've been building your business development arm. How have you opened that door to work with other general contractors, like expanded your business to any secrets to connecting? I mean, the reality is, just as I tee this up for you, Rex, is that um, I don't know what it is about low voltage automation. There are a lot of trade partners, right? For some reason, as a GC perspective, we don't have a ton of plumbers, maybe not enough framers, maybe enough trim carpenters, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of automation. Like there's something about that field that, we're solicited a lot. So how do you kind of stand out in a highly competitive field?
Um, Being available, doing everything that you said you were going to do, and keeping the communication strong with your GC or your builder. I think that our whole job, we look at ourselves as the subcontractor. Like it's almost like we act like you're our parent, like a parent contractor, and we want to make our daddy look good. You know what I mean? Like we want to do things that are going to make you not annoyed with us in any part of the build. We don't want to be a bottleneck on any process. So if anything, we try to over communicate. So if what's nice about AFT is you guys do a great job of communicating to us. Like I'm getting calls from your supers all the time about where we're at in the process. Hey Rex, expect to have your guys on site in 3 weeks. And then you guys even follow up on like week 2 and week 1 and give us like, oh wait, actually no, framing's changing, like don't come out. But if you're not following up with us, you're going to expect us to be following up with you, where we'll call you and try to keep that as smooth as possible so your build doesn't slow down. I think the key about just being somebody's subcontractor, whatever field, I know it's saturated in the home automation area, but I think just being somebody that can be counted on, not being somebody that's gonna show up late, somebody that might not show up at all, push you off. I think just communicate and do your job, not be a headache for your GC.
How often are you working with the designer and architect?
Not very often, honestly. Like rarely does it come into our field where we're going to have anything to do with architecture from the architect. Designers, depends on the designer. Some of them are more particular about things like speaker
Mm-hmm.
locations. They don't want to see that kind of stuff. Um, Certain lighting capabilities. I mean, something that's cool right now is the circadian rhythm that, you're in a home and they want the lighting in that house to match the lighting outside.
Mm-hmm.
So they want, if it's noonday outside, they want the lights inside the house to match noonday lighting. And so like for those kind of things, yeah, we're working with the designers a lot on those. Um, but most everything that we do is usually stacked away and hidden in a room that I mean, we just get told hide your stuff under the stairs or hide your stuff in this closet and try to stay out of the way of the actual feel of the home. We don't want to interfere with that at all.
So how's that maybe improved over time as you think about aesthetics, functionality, right? Because as for you who has to make sure it does function and it's going to perform from an audio and visual side, and you have these constraints of the home, the construction type, maybe constraints from the designer based on their finish selections. I mean, you're trying to balance all these different things. How do you work to make sure that it's going to perform and you're not getting called back, and yet you're still mirroring the aesthetics of what the end goal is?
Yeah, dude, that can be tough sometimes. Like, luckily, technology's advanced far enough now where so many things can be done wirelessly and hidden. So when it comes to the actual control of devices, that kind of thing, most of that can be just invisible. Like, you don't even need any type of um, you don't need to be any type of eyesore in the house. Even when it comes to like lighting control now, I mean, the lighting control panels, lots of times people are accustomed to having like a bank of 4 or 5 light switches on the wall where one
Yeah.
light is controlling the fan, one's controlling
Yeah.
the can lights and this and that. And now we can, I mean, luckily with the technology, we can put one keypad on the wall, label all the buttons, engrave them so that it's clear and clean and makes it easy for everybody. And you can control things as far as like, I mean, lighting, sure, but also you can control your audio video just from that keypad on the wall too. So it's a lot of cool new tech that allows us to be sleek and clean. And so we try to utilize it all the time.
Well, it's funny you speak about new technology because there's no doubt that these companies are trying to find ways so that their product is going to be specified more often. I know Sonet specifically has in-wall speakers, and we had a post go viral with Ryan where he did these in-wall speakers. And it's funny because from a functionality standpoint, you could be in a room and they sound perfect. I mean, they're behind drywall, they're behind plaster. You do have to think about the service arm. We had posted that on social media and it went viral for a lot of reasons. One, some people had never seen that technology that the speakers could be hidden because they could be big and clunky,
Sure.
depending on where they are. But more importantly, people are like, this is the dumbest idea. Like, what happens when the speaker goes out or the wiring goes bad and you got to cut up on your wall? Um, for you, what concern do you have, with maybe an in-wall speaker that's buried behind drywall, and how making sure that all your I's are dotted, T's are crossed before that's up and running to make sure that we'll perform over time?
Dude, so we just did this on, well, actually one of your projects. So the customer didn't want to have any speakers visible next to their fireplace, which I get it. Like, their house looks amazing. And so they didn't want to have any type of issue with something looking out of place, which would be a speaker on a shelf, right? And there was no option for like an in-wall sound bar wouldn't fit there. So we didn't want to have a sound bar up. It wouldn't add to I mean, talk about designers. They didn't want that.
Yeah.
And so the option was, let's go in wall. And in this particular situation, we have 4 in wall speakers there in the front of the room. And I remember when they were doing they were putting floating shelves in between them. And I was, me and your super Mark, we were talking all the time. We're like, hey, I was like, make sure they don't put a nail through the speaker, like, because it isn't visible. I mean, and different trades are working on it. So the
Right.
drywallers come through. We install the speakers. The drywallers come through, drywall over the top of it, and then now the shelving guys are coming in to install the shelves, and like, and I mean, just a little worried about a nail going through the wrong spot because, yeah, servicing the speakers after that would be a pain. But what's cool about something like those speakers, I mean, that's a concern we obviously bring up with Sonance out the gate. Like, why would we use your speaker when, okay, let's say the woofer is rumbling too much, it starts to crack the drywall. Like,
Right.
what does that look like? But their warranties and their confidence in their equipment is so high. And then after using it and seeing like, oh, this actually does work the way they say it was going to work, boosts my confidence where I'm not worried about it anymore. And if there is an issue, they're awesome about taking care of it. And if the issue's mine, like if I were to have done something wrong, honestly, we're pretty awesome about taking care of it too. So um, I think when it comes to that new tech that is a little people are a little unsure about, I think it's worth rolling the dice on it and seeing those in wall speakers, specifically the in the wall speakers. Those are freaking legit.
Well, it's interesting because very similar to me, right? I have to partner with vendors, suppliers, trade partners that are going to perform over time because that's an extension of my business. For you, you don't have to call it any vendors specifically. What is that? I don't want to say disparity, maybe difference between some of your preferred suppliers to other ones, as they stand behind their product. How does that impact you in what brands you're going to represent and sell to that client?
Oh, huge. I mean, we, as far as like people that stand behind their products, you know that they do when they offer the warranties that they do. Lots of our speaker lines that we use, they are like lifeline or lifelong warranties. So if a speaker goes bad, 15 years down the road, they'll warranty it, swap it out for free, which is, to me, says a lot about their confidence in the equipment that they're producing. We've had partners that we've worked with that will want to only do like a year on their product warranty. And
Mm.
for something that's good, but for some of our stuff like cameras, that kind of thing, where it's going to be out getting beat up in the heat outside in these Arizona summers,
Yeah.
we don't mess with that. So it's like, if you guys aren't confident enough to have a camera work longer than a year, then we're out and we find a new partner. And luckily we've been able to find some really good ones that stand behind their products and produce freaking awesome equipment.
What do you feel has been your favorite project you've worked on or most meaningful?
I mean, most meaningful was it was a commercial project in Washington D.C. That one I think was the most meaningful because it was the most difficult for me to do. It was it was basically a apartment complex that we were doing a surveillance system on, and we ended up doing, I think it was 147 cameras
Mm.
on that project, and along with access control, I think we did a total of mm, pushing 40 doors of access control, and all of it hardwired. So nothing wireless, nothing wirelessly connected, backbone with fiber for the internet. And I think that one was probably the hardest one that we've ever done. And I think that's why it means the most to me right now is just sweat and grit, but I got it done. And it ended up being awesome. It's fantastic. So
You
probably
know,
that.
it's maybe this is a psychology thing. I don't know what it is about your most difficult project that you just said. It's the most difficult. I'm sure there were challenges. I'm sure there were times where you're like, can we do this? It's so frustrating because nothing ever goes to plan. I look at some of my most signature things I've worked on, and they were some of my most difficult. And it's funny, I don't want to say we have short term memory, but for some reason we forget the pain or like the trial of it and the frustration at those moments. And we just remember the positive side of it.
Yeah, I think that's true because, dude, during it, I was like, fly me home. I don't want to be here anymore. And it ended up being, I mean, now looking back, it's just, I think being able to put the stamp of like, it's done and it's
Hmm.
done well just feels good. Like having achieved something that was so hard was so worth it.
You asked me this, how we do our process. What makes a project successful? When you're going in, what can a general contractor do to prep the client so that you come in, feel prepared for that meeting?
Um, it's stuff that you're already doing at AFT, but it's having a realistic budget conversation with the customer, with your client, where they know, okay, if I'm going to be allotting, you know, $40,000 to this project, what that money is going to actually get them.
Hmm.
And rather than, because a lot of problems that we have in certain situations with other GCs we work with is a lot of sticker shock when it comes out to, oh, this is what the client wants, this is what they're expecting, but it's way out of their budget. And so I think having realistic expectations set at the beginning helps them to, one, see if it's worth it to them to want to be able to increase that budget, or what's realistic to settle inside that budget, because either one's possible, and awesome systems either way. But if the customer doesn't know what they're expecting, that sometimes gets difficult.
It is tough. I mean, I relate that probably similar to me in a way when if we're coming in late to the process and they have an architect and designer and they haven't prefaced them on budget, and now we come in and we get to be the bad guy and
Yeah.
say, this design or this budget, like here's where you're at. I'm sure it's similar to you where you may have a GC lowball that line item as allowance, and you're coming in trying to present the bad news, and you end up being the bad guy in that meeting.
No, that's exactly what happens. And one thing that my business partner actually, he drops a lot of like one line wisdoms on me every once in a while. And one of the things that he said to me early on in our relationship as business owners, and we've kind of adopted that into our business culture, is, and I've told you this before too, where it's, we don't let a nickel hold up a dollar in what we're doing. So like when we prioritize our relationships with all of our customers, all of our clients, and sometimes in order for our customer to get exactly what they need, we're fine like eating the cost on some labor or eating the cost on even some product at times when we're doing these projects, knowing that it's going to give the customer a better experience than what they're than what they could actually do with what we've done. And sometimes that's accidental. Sometimes we've made a mistake in the bid, and instead of going back to them and being like, "Hey, it's actually going to cost you, more money. It's going to cost you another $1,000 to get this final product." Most of the time, we'll just eat it and get it done and give them a happy experience, because we know that really what's going to happen is we're going to be the ones that benefit from it. That we're going to be the ones that give them a good experience, help them to talk with their friends, talk with their family, and have something that they can brag about when they're watching the Super Bowl with their buddies. And same thing on the builder side. Like, we don't want to be nickeling and diming for all these different change orders that come up, because we do change orders. I mean, there's changes all the time,
Hmm.
and for us, we're like, okay, what's the cost of running another, Cat 6 drop here? It's nothing. Like, let's just throw it in there and not give more paperwork to AFT to just correct this one little thing. So like that's something that we try to do as far as budget goes, is just kind of be aware that it's not that big of a deal to eat a small cost.
Yeah, there's something about that emotional bank account, right? Those little things that can, you know, be that customer goodwill that really builds that reputation. As you think about where the industry's going from your perspective, Rex, from an automation side, and what does a home look like in performance based on your ability to go in and pre-wire as opposed to wireless? Like how different would the system be and operate? If you're not able to pre-wire, maybe it's a renovation, maybe it's a historic home, maybe things were not integrated soon enough and you're late to the ball game, right?
Yeah.
What should a customer expect if I don't want to say it's aftermarket, but it's not pre-wired?
So aftermarket, that's a really good question. And I think a misconception that a lot of people have now, even even in homes that are being wired that are not historic, things that could be pre-wired, a lot of customers are confused on, they believe that everything's wireless now. So
Hmm.
so why are we running cables to all these TVs? Why are we running cables
Right.
for wireless access points for internet? Like, why are we doing all these things when everything's wireless? And it's a it's something that we have to educate most of our customers on, is, hey, like, a lot of times I can show them, hey, Bluetooth, do you ever have issues connecting your phone Bluetooth to your car? Does it ever have a problem when you're connecting? And usually the answer is, yeah, sometimes I can't get to connect, got to disconnect it, reconnect it, and it's a hassle. And same things with your headphones. It's just the wireless technology is there, but it's not as reliant as a hardwired system. So when somebody's installing a wireless system after the fact, I mean, it works fine. It works fine most of the time, until it doesn't. And there's some things that are impossible to work that you can only do when you're hardwired in. And so anytime we can hardwire something, we do it. And even if that requires a little extra work, whether it's running conduit outside the house to get it to the other side of the house for, a solid hardwired internet connection or whatever they're doing, we'll do that because one, it alleviates us from having to go back for service calls because of wireless issues. And two, it's just a more reliable and fun experience for the customer. They have less problems and they're happier in the end. So I definitely steer people away from anything wireless.
Yeah, I mean, there's no benefit. I mean, if you could wire it to your point, I mean, I think anyone listening, I've had so many frustrations where things aren't connecting and you have to reset and reboot the whole system. And when you don't have time, it just becomes a huge frustration.
Oh, sure. Yep.
What,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, even today, I was driving in my car and my CarPlay normally works fine, but for whatever reason wasn't connecting. Had to and ended up just listening to music on my phone or turning on the radio. Who does that?
It happens to me all the time. I don't know what it is. Why that seems to be the case with my truck, apparently. But what keeps you up at night?
Oh, dude, balancing life. I think that's what keeps me up. Managing managing all the kids, managing the work, managing um, personal life. It's a lot. I'm fortunate that I have people in my life that have looked out for me a lot. Like you specifically, Brad. Like when a few years ago when we like really first connected, I was going through probably the most difficult time of my life. And you were able to relate on that to me. Like I remember the time you called me up and you're just like, "Hey, let's go get a Diet Coke from Sonic." And you came and you picked me up. I was like, "No, I'm good." You're like, "I'm picking you up." And you just came and you grabbed me. We went, got a soda, and having people like you that are just vulnerable and willing to like go over difficulties in their life help me navigate all the difficulties in my own. And so keeping me up at night, yeah, I would say there's, as far as business, personal, family, but having people in my circle that help me know how to manage that has been huge for huge for me. Not staying up at night and actually getting some sleep.
Well, it takes a village, man. It takes a village of support for ourselves and our children and our business. I mean, it's just part of life. What's upcoming and exciting for you?
Dude, I think growth this year is going to be really big for hybrid. We're just, I mean, projections for this next year are only growing, which feels good. So I'm looking forward to the business growing. I'm looking forward to my family growing. I got next year, my daughter will start kindergarten, and that'll be all my kids in school, which is kind of a big deal for my personal family. So, and I'm also looking forward to some growth in the gym, bro. I'm looking forward to getting some gains.
Well, I was gonna say for the audience, like any secrets to outlift everyone at the gym? Like it's kind of embarrassing when we go lift with Rex. So
that is a lie, dude. That is a lie. You guys are looking at Brad Leavitt, who is not only Superman when it comes to AFT, but Superman when it comes to all things physical too.
yeah. Well, Rex, you've been amazing. For those listening, how can they find you?
Uh, our website and Instagram, hybridsystems.com. And then Instagram, you can just look up Hybryd Systems and you'll find me.
And with a Y, H, right?
Yeah, HYBRYD Systems, plural. Yeah. I know it's a little unique. That was funny, actually, starting that. It wasn't supposed to be with a Y, but it ended up being with a Y and it worked out okay.
Yeah, and you just brand around it now.
We just rolled with it.
Got to stand out. Well, Rex, you've been amazing. Thanks for making time today.
No, thank you, Brad. You're the man.
If you get value from the show, please support us by giving a 5-star rating and review on whatever platform you listen to. And I also have a favor to ask. We've had some incredible guests that come on and share their wisdom, their knowledge about their business. So if you have friends or family members that could benefit from those episodes, please share it with them. as well as any other business owners that you're networking with that could get value from the podcast or certain episodes, please share those as well. Again, subscribe, make sure you're following. Any questions that you have, topics. We've had listeners reach out about certain guests that we should have on the show. Again, brad.l@aftconstruction.com. Email me for topics to address, guests that we should have on, and even if you think you'd be a great guest for the show. So again, thank you for all your support, and we'll see you next time.